Hey there everybody, I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel. This is the weekly angel card reading for the week starting Monday the 6th of April through to the 12th of April 2020. So a couple of interesting things are happening. We have a supermoon happening on Wednesday in Australia time. It will peak around 4 a.m. I believe, and that is in the sign of Libra. So Libra is the sign of balance, of harmony, of relationships. It's also the sign of beauty and art, but on the flip side, because every sign has sort of positive and let's say not so positive associations, it's also a sign that struggles to say no. It's a sign that struggles with boundaries. It's a sign that struggles not to self-sacrifice in the name of helping other people, and also a sign that tends to overdo it socially, so not so good with the old life balance. Even though it is a sign of balance. So that's one of the ongoing challenges. So a full moon is a time of letting go. It is a time of reaching a new level, of harvesting the gains of things we've been working on. And when we have a supermoon, that means it's like magnified effects. It's extra powerful. So you might find that if you've been working on achieving a better life balance, and perhaps this pandemic is helping you with that, you might go to a new level with that. If you've been working on setting better boundaries, perhaps this will help you get some closure on some of the guilt you may have had around that, which is entirely, guilt is something that really doesn't help you, because it is your divine right to say no to things that you don't want to do, and it is not your job to please other people. So perhaps even you will get some closure on a relationship that hasn't been working out, and you will get some insight on how to move forward from that. That can be any type of relationship, by the way, not necessarily romantic. So there's lots of ways it could be showing up for you. Libra is an air sign, so it is so it's very much about ideas as well. So you might get some sort of a burst of inspiration perhaps coming through there. So let's look at the cards for the week. I do think it's interesting as well for those of you who are in Christian countries. This weekend is going to be Easter, which is a traditional time of rising, and that might mean leaving behind old ways of doing things and reaching a new level. So perhaps it could be a powerful time this week. And obviously with all that we're going through, the universe is telling us very strongly it's time to let go of some of the things we've been doing that have not been working. Monday, emotions. So the energy of a supermoon or any lunar event, some astrologers will say it can build up for 2 weeks before and sort of start to wane in the 2 weeks after that as you build up to the next new moon. So you may have already been feeling super emotional because of this event. As I said, a supermoon, it kind of accentuates the effects of a full moon. So perhaps and a full moon can bring a tide of emotions. So if you're feeling extra emotional, it's not hormones, it's not anything particular that's going on in your life. Could be the state of the world, which is entirely justified. That's bringing up a lot of emotions for people. But just be aware your emotions may be extra volatile at the moment. And I know that we're all, well, it sounds like most of us are in lockdown, so it's difficult for us to go places to kind of deal with that in a healthy way. But in some ways being forced to sit with it is perhaps what we need, because we're so used to going to the pub to forget our problems or something like that. So this might be an opportunity for you to actually sit and do some journaling about what you're feeling, try to find a positive way to express it rather than, hopefully not putting it on to your nearest and dearest with, snapping at them. Although, being in lockdown certainly makes it more challenging, I have to say. Let's go to Tuesday now. The emotions card is really encouraging you to notice, first of all, what you're feeling. I think because we have been so busy for so long, for many of us, we just tend to bury whatever we're feeling under the carpet and just keep going, because I don't have time for this, I don't have time for this. And that's not particularly helpful. So I think I'm just changing card decks now, because I don't think that one was right. I don't think that one's right either. I'm going to go with sorry. So this is an opportunity for you to learn better ways to to notice and acknowledge your emotions first of all, without shaming yourself for what you feel. I grew up in a household where you weren't allowed to talk about how you felt, so it was very difficult for me to do that, and I was shamed when I did feel an emotion. So when I, got to late teens, early 20s, and was struggling with life, it was really difficult for me to ask for help with that, because I felt there was something wrong with me because I was not happy all the time, and I've been taught that I was supposed to be happy all the time. So notice some of your conditioning as well, and I say that without blame for anyone, but just it's part of a larger piece of the puzzle that you need to reckon with, and not to blame other people, but just to acknowledge that this is what I've taken on board, and now I need to make a conscious effort to choose a different response because it's not helping me. So instead of shaming myself for what I feel, I'm going to sit with it and go, yeah, I don't like these feelings, but they are how I feel, and I don't know what to do about them right now, but I'm going to at least acknowledge they're there. Sometimes that's enough for them to pass. They just want to be noticed. I think Tuesday's card, gentleness. Be very gentle with yourself at this time. Surround yourself with gentle people, situations, and environments. Probably not got a lot of choice about the people you're surrounding yourself with, but you definitely have a choice about what you look at on the internet and on TV. This is definitely not a time, I've spoken about this before, but not a time for watching disaster movies. It's not a time for watching movies about the apocalypse. It's not a time for starting fights with people on the internet, for shouting at people who aren't self-isolating. Just be really careful about who you're engaging with, and what you sort of say back to people. And I'm gonna be the first one to admit I do struggle with this sometimes. There's a part of me, because there's so much uncertainty, it's natural to want to cling to a sense of righteousness about this is the right way to do things, and anybody who's not is, and for sure, people who are not self-isolating are putting people at risk, and it's normal to be upset about that. But really shouting at people probably isn't going to help. So just be really careful about how you respond to that. I know it's not easy. And also make better choices about the way you're spending your time. Archangel Sandalphon on this card is associated with lots of things, but music being one of them. This might be a time to listen to some nice music, to learn a musical instrument if you've been wanting to do that. Do a creative activity, looking at it larger, doing more sketching, more colouring in. I am aware that a lot of people are approaching this time as, I need to use this time wisely, because the idea of resting is uncomfortable for them, particularly people who are locked into that idea of my value comes from what I do, so I can't do nothing. If I do nothing, then I have no value. That sort of idea can be lurking. So there is a lot of memes going around about people trying to learn a whole new language in 5 days, or doing all sorts of silly things, or trying to turn their bodies into some sort of Greek god. And so just be really careful not to fall into that trap of, yes, it's good to do creative things if that's what you want to do, but do them because you enjoy the process. Don't do them to try and get to become something else. Don't do them to try and be productive because you are trying to avoid sitting and resting and really listening to what your intuition might be trying to tell you to do. There is a lot of value in doing creative activities, but the trick is you've got to approach those from a space of the process. The process of creativity is healing. It's not about what you create and, oh, this piece of pottery is rubbish, so I've wasted my time. That's not a helpful approach. It's what you do it's what you get out of that process of being still, of being present, of channeling those ideas that you get from your intuition, hopefully without judgment, and actually putting them into something that uses your energy wisely. And a lot of people get a lot of really great spiritual insights when they're doing creative activities, but don't go into it with that expectation. So here's Wednesday's card, coming into power. I like this because it touches on what I was talking before about that rising up. When the moon is at its apex, it's really powerful, and we're at our most powerful when we're, when we've risen above what we need to overcome. I step into my power boldly and confidently. A lot of the people I work with have a lot of fears, clients, about stepping into their power. There can be all sorts of reasons for that. Fear of failure, fear of what people think, all sorts of things can come into that. But this card is really challenging you to work on stepping into your power. What are you here to do? Like, what do you actually want to give back to the world? What do you want to be? Do you just want to be a carbon copy of your mother? There's not anything wrong with that if that's what you really want to do. But are you just doing that because it's what is expected of you? You know, really think about, when you get to the end of your life, what you will have wanted your life to stand for, and how are you embodying that. And we have a wonderful opportunity to be asking those questions right now, because we're not that busy, hopefully. So what are the things that are going to bring you into a position of power? You know, have you been spending your time blaming your ex-husband or your parents for your situation? Maybe you could take back your power, because when we complain, we're giving away our power. And it's normal to complain, but I'm talking about a consistent pattern on the long term. When you're constantly complaining, you're giving away your power. How can you take it back? By taking charge and go, okay, I can't change what's happened to me, but I can change how I respond to it, and I can change what I do with that. And maybe I can use that as, you know, do some art about the process of letting go of a toxic relationship. I don't know. It's up to you what you do with it, but look at how you can approach your life from a position of power, instead of one of waiting around for things to get better. Yeah, hopefully that explains what I'm trying to get at. Sorry, I'm just about to sneeze. I'm just trying to resist it. I'm not sick. My hay fever gets really, really triggered at this time of year. Okay, I think I'm good. So we're on to Thursday now, the 9th of April. Simplify your life. How very appropriate right now. The things that we have been but leaning on to give us structure are gone. And so this is a really good, when those things that gave us the structure, the commute to work every day, the you know, the meetings that you had every day. I know a lot of people still having meetings on Zoom and that sort of thing, but a lot of the nonsense of life has been stripped away, and we do have a more simple approach. We're looking at not overcomplicating things by trying to cook gourmet meals. We're looking at, what have I actually got in the pantry? How can I use it up to avoid spending money that I don't really have right now? Instead of running around trying to solve everybody's problems, who do I actually need to engage with at this point? And maybe I can just FaceTime the people who I have the meaningful relationships with. I have that healthy balance of give and take. That's the hallmark of a healthy friendship, is that a balance of give and take. And sure, some people would need more giving at some points, and sometimes they'll need more taking. But you know, if the long-term pattern is one of you're constantly giving to people who are giving you nothing back, this is a good time to really think about, maybe I need to simplify my connections by not, when this is over, not spending as much time with them, and maybe just starting to use this pandemic as a way to slowly cut off contact. So in a gentle way. So those are some examples of ways you can simplify your life. I think the other thing to talk about with that card is we've been really overtaxing the planet's resources. And this is a good time to think about, maybe I didn't need to go around the world for those meetings. Maybe I just needed to Zoom or email people the way I'm doing now. Maybe I didn't need to keep buying stuff. Maybe I've actually got enough clothes in my wardrobe now. These sorts of things are coming up for people, and so it's a really good idea to be thinking about. I know that your life has been simplified without your permission or your knowledge, but now that you're in this situation, what can this teach you about how you're going to move forward when all this is over? And we're not going to go back to the way things are. We're going to go back to it. We're going to go into a new space, and really, what do you want that to look like? Friday's card, release and surrender. A lot of us are having to let go of a lot of things at the moment. Let go of our desire to know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. We've got to let go of, as I said, a lot of structure that we've been leaning on to give us a sense of meaning that it hasn't. And a good example of that might be some of the people who've leaned into their work to give them a sense of identity, which it doesn't really have the capacity to do. And now that your work has scaled back, or you don't have the capacity to impress people as much because you're not there in front of them, maybe this is the time to think about, who am I even? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to become? Because we're always in a state of flux of transitioning into something hopefully better if we're taking charge of the situation appropriately. You're always going to have to let something go to get something new. That's just the deal. And my life coach has a saying, when we reach for something new, something old is awakened. So often, some older stuff that needs healing will come up. And a good example is when we go into a new relationship. Some of those old abandonment fears can come up from, that stem back to your childhood. So be aware of those, and don't use those as a reason to run away. Use them as a reason to do some much needed clearing and healing. And remember to reach out to me if you want to book some energy healing work to do that. And this is a very powerful time to do it. So we've got Saturday now. I don't know what's happening here. I think I've got the wrong card deck. It just wasn't feeling right. Let's go with this one. Sorry, I'm sounding really blocked up now. I need to go and have a good old sneeze after this is over. Hopefully it's not too unpleasant to listen to. Music for Saturday. So as I mentioned, this could be about you doing music, or practicing music, or it could be about you listening to music. When we're not in that buzz of city life, of corporate world, it can be a little quiet. I'm noticing that too. There's not much traffic going past. There's nothing really going on. So playing music is helping me to get a sense of normality is not really the right word, but just to give me some kind of ballast, I guess, as I move through the day. Also, it helps me access my emotions a little bit. Sometimes I don't know what I'm feeling, and music can help me kind of get to that kind of place of sadness and really sit with it instead of avoiding it. It can also really help pump me up. Like I'm really missing my gym workouts at the moment, so playing some music and have a bit of a dance can certainly help with that. And if you are a member of a No Lights, No Lycra Facebook group, they're doing a lot of virtual dancing in the evenings, which is really good. I'm really loving that. So look at how music can speak to you. And if that's not for you, I would say use that as more of a general message about creativity. I know creativity brings up so much fear for people because they think, I'm not creative, I'm not good enough. But it's not about being good. It's just about doing something new that really gets you to sit out of that logical, analytical state of mind and into that state of allowing and being curious, which is so good for us. Sunday's card is Eternal Love. So the card says, help me perceive all of the love that surrounds me so I can feel safe, receiving, expressing, and giving love. I've already touched on this idea of how that giving and receiving of love. A lot of women in particular in the West are raised to believe that your value comes from self-sacrifice, from giving up to others. That's how you receive love. You have to set yourself on fire to keep everybody warm. And we're starting to wake up to the fact that that's just not true. Men aren't asked to do that, so why should we? And instead, we're starting to move into a space of saying no, of setting boundaries, and really managing our relationships better instead of exhausting ourselves, running around after other people, which doesn't leave us with the energy to do the work that we're actually here to do on this planet. And I'm not saying there's something wrong with giving to other people. Obviously, that's a huge part of our life purpose. I'm talking about the over-giving, the over-attachment to what people think of me, the codependency stuff. So I just feel like I need to explain that whenever I talk about the giving and receiving. This is a good time to actually be thinking about the balance of love, or the flow of love in your closest relationships. Are you doing more giving than receiving? Are you resistant to letting people help you? Are you really struggling at the moment, but you don't like to ask for help because you don't want to bother people? I mean, that's an excuse we give. It's actually not true. You're not bothering people when you tell them how you feel or ask them for help. You're giving them the opportunity to help you, which is what strengthens your bond. That's what we're here to do. We're hardwired for connection, and if you block yourself off from that, you're really keeping yourself stuck, and you're limiting the amount of love that can flow your way, which means the amount that you can pass on. So you don't do yourself any favors by trying to be proud and trying to do it all yourself. And gosh, this is a time where we really need each other more than ever, even though we can't physically do that in the way we might have been able to before the pandemic. So really being open about how you feel, asking for help, that's part of that receiving. A lot of people are so uncomfortable with receiving help that if you compliment them on what they're wearing or how they look or something they did well in a work situation, they'll bat it off and say, oh no, oh, I screwed that up, or or this old thing, I've had this for ages. Instead of saying thank you, they're so uncomfortable with receiving love, and perhaps that's because of the way they were raised. Maybe they were raised to believe that there's something wrong with doing that. It means you are arrogant, or it means that you, it really challenges the ideas about their sense of self-worth, because on some level they don't feel like they're good enough to receive good things. Cheryl Strayed talks a lot about how, the title of one of her books is Tiny Beautiful Things. She talks about how when she was in the midst of heroin, I don't know, she'll use the word addiction, but I'm going to use it. A little girl on a bus gave her a balloon, and she didn't want to accept it because she didn't feel like she deserved tiny, beautiful things. Now, I know that's talking about addiction, but addiction is where we're depriving ourselves of good things. It's when we're depriving ourselves of growth. We're keeping ourselves stagnant. We're avoiding feeling the things we need to feel in order to grow. And so that is, even though that's an extreme situation, some of those sort of principles apply of, if you're cheeking out of your life because you've been investing all your energy into trying to prove yourself at work in order to make yourself feel like you matter, that stuff's probably coming up for you right now because you don't have that structure of work in the same way that you used to. And so maybe this is a time to ask yourself those questions about self-worth. I've gone way off track here. So that I can feel safe receiving, expressing, and giving love. So the card is talking about the ways we block ourselves off from love. And I've talked about that a little bit, but some of the other ways we block ourselves off is that overgiving I talked about as well. We're over-invested in helping other people. Often that's a distraction to avoid working on the things that we need to work on as well. So when we're giving love, we want to be giving it from a place, not from a place of neediness, but from a place of, this is good for both of us. Because often, when you're in that overgiving space as well, you often invest your energy in people who you're not really helping because you're actually just enabling them to stay stuck. That's a lot to deal with, isn't it? So if you're feeling lonely and isolated at the moment, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I feel it too. The things that we can come back to, the things that are helping me, is to look at the donut, not the hole. So looking at the things that are good in your life, the things that you do have. I have a lovely home to isolate in. I have a wonderful partner to isolate with, and even though he annoys me a bit at the moment because we're in close quarters, I try to keep looking at the things that are really great about the situation. We have enough food, we have enough toilet paper, we're okay, we can walk to the beach, even though we're not actually allowed on the beach anymore, but knowing it's there is lovely. Being able to see it is fantastic. So those are all parts of love, because they're things that when I acknowledge them, I'm giving myself the gift of recognizing how lucky I am, how fortunate I am. I don't believe in luck, so I probably shouldn't use that word, but that's a sign that I'm loved, really, because I've got all these great things in my life, and I love myself enough to really take time to recognize them as well. So that can really help. I feel that's a really tricky card because it's so vague and there's so many different ways it can go. So I apologize, I've gone way off track with that, but hopefully there was something in there that spoke to you about that. The card is about remembering that you're a child of the universe and you do deserve love. So please know you are loved, even though what you're feeling right now is really big and immense, and it feels like things are not going to get better. They are, they will, you're going to be fine. You are loved, you are enough. So looking at the week, I think emotions, this is quite big, this energy, and also just this idea that we had from last week about this life review. We're being asked to look at simplifying our lives, taking a more empowered position. And I know at the moment you might be limited in how you can actually exercise that, but it's still a very appropriate time to be thinking about how you're going to do that when you do actually go in to rebuild a new life after this has happened. And also this letting go, that's huge. In fact, it's probably the biggest of the week. Letting go of the things that have been getting in your way, letting go of your attachment to the things that have been getting in your way, because often people as I say, they blame other people for keeping them stuck, whereas in fact they've allowed that to happen. So really think about that. Big week. Have a good one. Remember to reach out to me if things are getting tough for you, because energy healing can really help you, and sometimes it is really difficult to see the wood for the trees, and having someone objective can really help. The work I do has always been remote. It's always been over Skype and Zoom, so that hasn't changed. PayPal has always been my means of payment, so that hasn't changed either. What has changed is that that I'm getting more inquiries because people are realizing a lot of big stuff is coming up for people, but it's coming up because you are in a position to handle it and you are strong enough to deal with it. If you need help, please ask for it. That is a gift you give to yourself, because you are saying, I know I deserve help and I'm going to accept that. So thank you very much for watching. I know it's a difficult time, but I thank you all for your support of my work and your support of each other. I'm seeing a lot of really great messages between people in the comments as well, which is lovely. So remember to follow me on Instagram at @OneGroundedAngel to see each card each day. That's where I see a lot of dialogue really between people. Facebook as well, I do post sometimes articles in support of these messages there, so you might like to follow me on or like me on Facebook. My page is called One Grounded Angel, but I know not everybody is a Facebook fan. And of course I will be here next week to do more messages for you for the week ahead. And I know that seems like a long way away, but oh my goodness, time is a strange concept at the moment, isn't it? Each day feels like about a week to me. Take care of yourselves, take care of your people. We're going to be all right.